Hello art lovers and aspiring artists. In this tutorial I will guide you learn oil painting. So do listen, follow and watch this video tutorial of portrait painting. Oil paints are one of the most popular artistic mediums and for good reason. They are versatile, archival and economical. There are some rules you need to be aware of and the techniques can take some time to become familiar with. So there are some whys and hows I'm going to answer in this tutorial. Step 1. Sketch or trace or grid the image onto your surface. You can watch my video tutorial of how to grid realistic portrait. I will add the video in end screen of this video. Do subscribe Akansha Arts and press the bell icon to get notifications of upcoming videos. If you aren't comfortable drawing your portrait freehand, don't be afraid to trace or use a projector to get your proportions correct. Step 2. Lay out only the colors you need for your palette. I have found that following 5 colors are all you need for most skin tones. The colors I have used in this portrait are yellow ochre, ivory black, chrome yellow deep hue, flake white hue, burnt sienna and crimson lake. You can order these colors individually from Amazon or find them at your local art supply store. Step 3. Block in your shadows and darks. I have found that blocking in the darks first helped me to get a feel for the shapes in the face. For this painting, I started with burnt sienna and yellow ochre. Again, feel free to mix your color, then dab a little bit right onto your photo to make sure the colors are close. Skin tones will vary and they are never the same all over the face, so keep mixing and dabbing as you paint. Step 4. Add mid-tone colors to the portrait. You want to generally work from dark to light, so if your darks are in place, add your mid-tones. As you do, keep your eyes open for subtle changes in color around the face. As this portrait have more warmer colors, for warmer tone, add yellow or crimson. As you block in the mid-tones, you will see planes of the face take shape. For this painting, I added the lips during this stage as well. Remember, lips are also a skin tone, they are never just red. Mix and dab to be sure of color. For this attire or dress part, I use burnt sienna and ivory black mix. Just paint a base of this mix, then go with highlights of the creases on the dress. Step 5. Paint the lightest colors on top. Light tone should be your top layer. Don't use plain white. The light areas of a face are always either a bit cool or bit warm, so mix your paint accordingly. In this painting, my light areas are pretty warm, so I mix the peachy color with mostly crimson or black. When the lights are blocked in, you will see a 3-dimensional face take shape. Now comes the fun part. Step 6. Add definition and details throughout the portrait. Now that you have your basic values blocked in, start to play with the tones and make adjustments, add darks and lights when needed, and always be thinking about ending up with a nice amount of contrast. You can see where I added some dark colors to define the eye area and deepen the creases near the mouth. I also add more color to the cheeks and lips for more definition. As you fill in various details, remember to keep painting the shapes of the face, not the lines. This is why it makes sense when we say block in a color, because you are adding a shape at a time, not drawing around the shapes with paint. Check your reference photo often, and when you see a difference between your painting and the photo, fix it with your paint. This is the most fun part of painting because the subject almost seems to come alive in front of you. Step 7. Add the basic colors for the hair and build up. Again, I like to start with the dark part of the hair first and layer up to the light areas. As soon as you block in the dark of the hair, you will notice where more color needs to be added in the face. In this case, I needed to add some to the forehead and the left side along the hairline and the neck. Oil paint is comprised of ground up colored pigment suspended in a drying oil, usually linseed oil. The quality of oil paint varies based on the quality of pigment used, how fine the pigment is, and the medium which is used. You can make oil paint more fluid by mixing it with more oil or by adding a solvent. However, this also weakens the paint. Oil paint is generally at its most stable form straight from the tube. The basic set of oil painting supplies and equipment you needed are a range of small to large paint brushes designed for oil painting. Hog hair and decent synthetic brushes are great for oil painting. You should watch my video on how to choose paint brushes for more information. The next you needed is an easel, a palette, a basic palette of paints, a surface to paint on, odorless solvent to wash your brushes. Here I use turpentine oil, linseed oil, and a paper towel for wiping your brushes. Keep adding more highlights and details as required to make it more realistic. Step 8. Paint the eyes. By filling in the white of the eyes first, it is very important to realize that they are never pure white. There are always shadows and variations in the white part of the eye. In this case, I started with white and added a little ivory black or yellow. Once you are done with the whites of the eyes, fill in the pupils. I left the highlight area open on this one, but you don't have to do that. But if you don't want to, highlight will be added at the end, and you can always layer paint over the top of the paint to create them. Don't get too hung up on the eyes. Get the basics in and move on. Step 9. Paint in your background. In most of my portraits, the backgrounds are minimal. I like to crop in pretty tight on my subject and block in a color to keep it simple. If you haven't already painted it in, try to choose a color that doesn't compete with your subject and add it around the portrait. If you block in a color and you don't like it, just wipe it off and use another. For this painting, the colors I have used are viridian hue, cobalt blue hue, flake white hue, and the technique I use is knife painting. I will discuss this technique in special video of knife painting. Step 10. Finish up with your highlights and tiniest details. This is where you adjust the details and add highlights where the light touches the hair and reflects in the eyes. You only need a few highlights, so don't get carried away. Like anything else, the more you practice, the more you learn about painting portraits and the better you will get. But I hope these tips will help along the way. Happy painting!